So I'm delighted now to introduce our keynote speaker for Velo-Citizen 2025. Gil Penalosa is someone known to many of you. He's passionate about cities for all people. Because of his unique blend of experience, pragmatism, and passion, many cities worldwide seek his leadership and valuable advice. He's worked in over 350 cities, and in all, he's been promoting walking, cycling, and parks for people. He's the founder and chair of the successful Canadian nonprofit organization 880 Cities and founder of Cities for Everyone. In 2022, he ran for mayor of Toronto. It's a shame he didn't win, given what's happening there today. But he's now an academic chair at the Norman Foster Institute for Sustainable Cities, as well as an expert advisor to the International Society for Urban Health. And throughout his career, he's been a strong advocate for improving cycling, making his mark in Bogota, Colombia, radically transforming the ciclovia, or open streets, from a program of a few kilometers to one that sees over 1 million people bike, walk, or run along 121 kilometers of Bogota's roads every Sunday of the year. And that's internationally recognized and celebrated, as is he. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Gil Penalosa to the stage to hear his keynote speech. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a little strange, the title. If you want to promote cycling, don't talk about cycling. Why? By the way, you know, this looks like Copenhagen, but actually, it's Paris. And Paris, why? Because it's getting greener, and more beautiful, and more sustainable. And the Paris Plage began in 2002 when along the Seine River, they closed it on Sundays, like Bogota, for people to walk, to bike, to enjoy. They created a beach and people would come and sunbathe and so on. And in 2007, Believe came. All of a sudden, first year, 20,000 bikes, 1,400 stations. It was spectacular. I was there at the time, and it was amazing to look at Believe. They had 20 repair stations, one of them on a boat along the Seine River. And then came Anne Hidalgo. Who would have thought? A Spanish woman, surrounded by all of those men, and leading the transformation in Paris. Anne Hidalgo has been amazing what she has been doing. She said she wanted everybody in Paris to have a protected bike lane within 1 kilometer. And we clearly see many of the benefits. Like, look at the quality of the air from 2007 to today. It's very, very clear, the transformation. And she is doing the school. She saw that kids, when they are driven to school, it's very dangerous. People are driving fast, and also the quality of the air is terrible. And she's doing school streets all over Paris. Now she's done over 300. Over 200 of those are permanent. So all of a sudden, those communities got a new public space, and the kids can easily bike and walk. They do the design, and then they build it. It's not just talking. In Paris, what Anne Hidalgo is doing. So it goes from this to this, and this is doable everywhere. Anywhere, in any of your cities. Yeah, no city is perfect, so yeah, combining bikes and buses is not a good idea, but she's done so much good. I'm such an admirer. Look at this, going into the city center. Now more people are starting to go on bikes than on cars. But it wasn't like that. recently. Look at 2010, 2016. It was such a big, and now it's happening. Why is she doing it? She says she's doing it because she's green in Paris. Well, she could have said it's because she wants mobility, or she wants economic development, or furniture, or because she loves bikes. It doesn't matter. The issue is this, the benefit that people like. In Paris, people like greening. So she said it's about greening Paris. If in your city people say, oh, we like economic development, tell them it's about economic development. That's the beauty of bike, but it's holistic. It's not just about bikes. She also want to do social housing and public services and local businesses and recreation and also have some actions that actually seem transformative, like conversion of Rue de Rivoli. And not because they didn't have cars. They had lots and lots and lots of cars into a bike lane. It's about creating cities for people. It's not about bikes. It's about cities for people. And if it happens there, well, it can happen anywhere. So in Paris or New York or anywhere, we need to be more generous. We need to be more generous about sharing and learning. And that's why all of us are here at Velo-city. That's why I'm so grateful that the city of Gdańsk and the European Cyclists Federation invited me, because all of us, and please make sure to talk to as many people as possible, because every one of you has something to learn from each other and also something to teach each other. It's about sharing and learning. I mean, I love Poland. I've been to many cities in Poland, and I think Poland is the country from the former communist area that has done the best transition, because it has kept some of the good things from communism, like good health, good education, public spaces, but also invited the private sector and has embraced the private sector. And people are so nice, and the food is delicious. So it doesn't matter which city you go to, you feel invited, you feel welcome. The only problem with Poland is that also, as most former communist countries, they're intoxicated with cars, almost asphyxiated. You see parks everywhere. You're going to have a coffee and you are surrounded by cars. That really has to stop. It's been long enough to realize that having a car doesn't make you any better. Maybe it's the worst. And also, I think that I've been to Gdańsk before, and it's been so nice, such a beautiful city in daytime and nighttime. And last time I was here, I walked the city with the former mayor. And one of the things that I love walking the city for a couple of days with him is he was so excited because bike sharing was coming and was going to have the highest percentage of e-bikes in Poland, and actually of anywhere in Europe. Almost all of them were going to be e-bikes. Sadly, he was killed, but he left a lot, and his deputy mayor is now the mayor, and we are so glad that the interest on cycling continues. But let me tell you a little bit about me. I have biked all my life. I really love cycling. When I was a little kid, I liked the outdoors and had my little trike and went all around and had many, many bikes throughout my life at school. Many, many years later, I ran a company. I was CEO and president of a company that we had the rights for the Tour of Colombia, La Vuelta a Colombia. So we actually set it up and organized, and we invited the Polish team many, many times. And we also had the rights and televised the Tour de France. And it was amazing. What an amazing experience with these like superhuman athletes. And then the company that was running not only these sports, but also we did news and soap operas. We produced a soap opera where the star was a cyclist. So it was good because having soap operas, okay, yeah, the traditional, the poor girl from the small town, blah, 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 getting married. But the guy was a cyclist. He was not a guy that like 90% of the soap operas that is just they never work, they just drink whiskey and they think about how to have a relationship with their brother's wife or something. No, this guy was a sport, was an athlete, was a cyclist. And we had, we had over 1/3 of the households in Colombia tuned every day of the week watching this. And then afterwards, I went into the public sector as commissioner in Bogota. Bogota is in the center of Colombia, the capital of Colombia, in the northern tip of South America. And when I became a commissioner, I had like 50 priorities. And someone said, Gil, when you got 50 priorities, you have no priorities. So then I downsized to 3. One of them was the Ciclovia, one of them was the Simon Bolivar Park. And yeah, we did over 200 parks. We did parks all over the city, small, big ones, medium. This was one of them, the Simon Bolivar Park. The Pope came here, gave a mass for 1 million people, then the Pope left, and then nothing happened. Nothing happened in 27 years. Why nothing happened in 27 years? Because change is hard. In Gdańsk, in Bogota, in Toronto, in Copenhagen, anywhere, because you try to change and the cave people show up. You know them because they're everywhere. They are the citizens against virtually everything. But don't take no for an answer. All of us, we gotta find that little crack through the window and run through it. So it was like this for 27 years. There were not even sidewalks. And we turned it into one of the most magnificent parks. We built the first protected bike lanes in Colombia around the park. And it was really, really nice. And part of doing the park, we also did a 4-kilometer loop trail. We also built a velodrome and hosted the World Championships. We did one, that was one of the 3 BMX sites that we built. And also we found the Ciclovia. When I got the Ciclovia, all of a sudden I realized that it was not under my commission. It was under transportation, and they hated it. It was a dime program, few kilometers, few people. And then I had to show how bicycle was so important. So I made up that it was a World Bicycle Day and that we were going to have a ride. And I didn't even know how to organize it. Luckily, I had been in the media, so I started calling my friends and said, look, I said in 1 month I was going to do a bike ride, and I don't have any money for advertisement. Please help me. Well, we had over 40,000 people. It was fantastic. And the media would ask me, hey, Gil, what is this? I said, oh, no, we're celebrating the International Biking Day. Deep down, of course, it was because I was having a bureaucratic fight with the Secretary of Transportation and with the Secretary of Planning. They hated bikes. And then that Monday, the mayor called us and said, okay, now the Ciclovia moves from transportation to Gil. And in 5 years, we turned it into the world's largest pop-up park. It's something that is fantastic. Simple to do. Any city in the world, you open streets to people, you close into cars, and the magic happens. We went to 121 kilometers, connecting the whole city, the poorest parts of the city, the slums, to the wealthiest parts of the city, because I think that's one of the things that bicycle does. It does not separate. It doesn't matter if someone is on a $5,000 bike and someone is on a 50, they don't segregate. They unite everybody as equals. And that is every Sunday and holiday. And people of all ages and all abilities. Everywhere that you have Ciclovia or open streets, some people walk and run and skate, but over 70% bike. And it's something that is really amazing. Young and old and rich and poor and fat and skinny. 1 out of 5 people. I led the golden years of the Ciclovia. In those 5 years, we went from 17 to 121 kilometers. By the way, in the last 25, we have increased only 5, sadly. I wish we were in 250. But also in those 5 years, we did a lot of progress. We did an administrative structure, recreational places along the Ciclovia for people to do aerobics and yoga. This is 100% about urban health. So much urban health that the World Health Organization hired me to help them celebrate the World Health Day in 2010, creating the 1,000 cities, 1,000, so that people would go and bike. And we did videos, and we have them on our website. You can see they're in French and in all 5 official languages of the UN. truly doable everywhere. It changes minds. All of a sudden, we realize that the streets are public space. They can have different uses according to the day of the week, the time of the day, and it can get everybody, including in Mexico City. They have a really nice program for blind people in tandem bikes. This is about social integration. People of all ethnicities. This is really about equity that is so much needed for people to understand around the world what equity is. Opportunities, giving everybody what they need to succeed. It's about meeting each other as equals. And if your city doesn't want to do it because they don't want to be like Bogota or Delhi and they're a little bit snobby, tell them that Paris does it. 52 Sundays of the year. Even in the wintertime, this is low cost. All you need, if your city has people and streets, you can do it. It's low risk. You are not building arenas or gymnasiums. It's using the streets. And the benefits, my God, are amazing. Mental and physical health, economic development, environment, happiness. That's why hundreds of cities are doing it. If you have long winters, okay, do it from May to September. If you don't have winters, do it all year. And then after I had been commissioner, I ran my brother's campaign. He was elected mayor for the first time. He just came out with a new book about his mayorship. And actually 3 weeks later, it was Velo in Barcelona. So he and I said, oh, you know, we want to do bike lanes all over the city. So he said, hey, Gil, go to Barcelona, learn as much, meet consultants, meet everybody. So like the first timers, I was like you. It was the first time that I had gone to a Velo-city. Velo-city was amazing. I met so many fantastic people and the speakers and the booths and the consultants and everybody. And I came back. And one of the things my brother was saying, it's impossible to fix everybody's home, but in the short term, but we can fix everything that is public. And let's make everything public excellent. And in the first 3 years, he built over 280 kilometers of protected bike lanes. When there was not 1 meter from Alaska to Patagonia. Actually, there were not bike lanes, not even in Paris. They were basically the Netherlands and Denmark and so on. It was in some places so poor that it's almost impossible for you to imagine the level of poverty. And here, that's what you need to do, really, really good quality of bike lanes and sidewalks. As you can see, the road doesn't even pavement. So you gotta decide, you gotta be consistent between what you think, what you say, and what you do. Perfect vegetation for the weather, nice lights for all ages. What do you need? Really high quality protected bike lanes. I mean, paint is nothing. Paint is nothing. You gotta have protected bike lanes because of safety, but also because we need to dignify the people that bike and the people that walk. So that's why we need to have really high quality. And it was interesting connecting it with public transit and doing. I mean, also because a high quality bike lane reminds people that a $30 bike is equally important to a $50,000 car. But it was about creating a city for people. Over 400 neighborhoods were legalized so they could put water and sewage. 99% are doing it. Beautiful public schools in some of the poorest. 67 schools were built in the slums of very high quality, and swimming pools and centers of recreation and parks. So it's holistic. It's about cities for people. The biggest fight was to get the cars out of the sidewalks. Horrible. He was almost impeached for getting the cars out of the sidewalks. Doing the bus rapid transit, BRT, he purchased and expropriated thousands of houses. Why? Because there wasn't enough space for the buses, but not for the bicycles, not for the sidewalks. So this had to be done because they would not be without the bike lanes and without the sidewalks. And then that's how it was done. But let me just end with a couple of images so that you get an idea. It's not perfect, but it's something that is really interesting of what a city like Bogota, which is very poor. Look at this, for example. I was doing it with a telephone, so it's not that good of quality, but look at that. Those trees were planted 25 years ago in 2000, in 1998. Now they're grown. But look at the quality. It's starting in a low-income area. Now it's going a little bit more medium. The width of the bike lane, the width of the sidewalks, the trees. And low income. This can be as good as any bike lane anywhere. What's really amazing is that it's in a very poor area of a city in an emerging country. So this is just showing that a lot of these things are doable. It's exciting. And I was so happy because I said, wow, maybe this is going to get cities in many places, all over, at least all over Latin America doing it. Because then people say, well, if Bogota did it, I can do it. Yes, of course. This is really nice. Where the city was growing, even before any street for cars was built, he built an amazing highway for walking and biking and trees and all of this. There were not even no housing. So then when the houses arrived, they had a super highway for people walking and cycling of very high quality. And so this, I mean, we can do it anywhere. Before the pandemic, in 2019, there were 540 kilometers, over 850,000 bike rides daily. I don't think you can think of cities that have over 850,000 bikes, not too many. I mean, why am I talking about Bogota? It's just to show that it's not about money. Bogota is very poor compared to cities in Poland. It's about cities for people. And Bogota, by the way, is a low income in an emerging country. It's unsafe in general. There's a high bicycle theft. The car is a huge status symbol. Also, many rainy days. So it's not the place where you would think bike was going to thrive. But nevertheless, it did. So this was year 2000. I want you to think for a minute, if you are year 2000, in Bogota, hundreds of kilometers, I mean, already Copenhagen, Amsterdam, Utrecht, they were amazing. So think, put yourself in the year 2000. Think, if you were in the year 2000, how would you think your city would be regarded to cycling 25 years later, in 2025? Some of you are very young, so maybe you had not been born in 2000, so you can think of 2010. How would you have thought, imagine, how would you have imagined your city in 2025? Think for a moment. Unfortunately, we have not had much success as we would have imagined. I mean, I moved to Toronto in year 2000, and Toronto is really mediocre for cycling. I bike every day, 365 days, all 4 seasons, except when I'm traveling. Why? Why? I mean, other than some cities in Denmark, in the Netherlands, in Germany, even not all the cities. In Denmark, Copenhagen is amazing, but there's lots of cities that are not. And other cities like Paris and Bogota and London and Malmo and some university towns. I mean, in Latin America, there is no city with more than 5% other than Bogota. You go to the US. The US, this is all the modes. The bikes are the ones in orange. And actually, there is only one, a university town of Davis in California that has more than 5%. No other city has more than 5%. Why? And people say, oh, we don't bike because too many hills, the roads are narrow, there's extreme weather, too hot or too cold. Well, if that was reality, then Los Angeles would be the perfect city. No hills, flat as a table, and it has only 1%. Why? This is what I want all of us to think these 3 days. Why? How can we improve this? Some people say we don't bike because distances are too big. Well, in the US, more than half of the trips are less than 5 kilometers. Easily doable on a bike. But very few people bike. I mean, New York is the one with the highest number of trips, and it's the same trips as Seville. And Seville has 10% of the population. And it's not that Europe is that great either. In Europe, half of the trips are done by car. Only 1 out of 10 is done cycling. So other than some isolated examples, Europe has to really, really, really improve. I was working in Turkey last week, and those cities are so flat, most of them, and people don't bike. People bike only the tourist bike. And also, the cities that you think are cycling cities, they were not cycling cities. When the car came in the 50s and 60s and 70s, people stopped biking and started using their cars. China, well, we don't know about China, because China also same thing. The cars came and people stopped cycling. They used to. China is interesting because China, I mean, it used to be the best. But then after 2005, huge decline everywhere. Before it was the kingdom of bikes. After the Cultural Revolution, this was Beijing, this was Guangzhou. Fantastic. But then they got money, which was fantastic. 90% of the people in China were in extreme poverty. Now zero. It was an amazing economic. But they started buying cars, they started this sprawl, and bicycles died. Fortunately, in the last years, there's a revival. So we don't really know what's going to happen to China. Will China become the kingdom of bicycles again? I mean, amazing people like Chris and Melissa Brunlet, who are Canadian, but moved to the Netherlands. And Chris is with the Dutch Cycling Embassy, and he has done a lot of riding on recent trips to China. And he says, for example, they have built over 80,000 kilometers of greenways. In Beijing alone, they have 3,200 kilometers. Almost 1 million shared bikes doing 950 million rides a year. 24 million people registered. I mean, the numbers in China are astronomical. So why? Because the quality of the air was terrible. The congestion was even worse. And they saw the bike as a solution to health and economy and mobility. But why just few cities? Let's think about it. I mean, we know that walking and cycling should be the priority. We know that if you're going to go drive to the school or ride to school, it's completely different. What it looks like, the quality of the air, the safety. I mean, Marco has shown how a bike lane can move 5 times more people than a car lane. We've seen obesity is a huge crisis. It wasn't 25 years ago. Now it is. And we know that it's not only about physical activity and nutrition. There are other ingredients, but physical activity is a major part of it. We know that we have a huge crisis. We see climate change every day. We see the city consequences. We see the personal consequences. Imagine as a child finding your bike like this. When I was in Turkey, I was at a conference on clean energy, and I said, well, the cleanest energy is the one not used. And second is the biking and walking. Biking and walking. I mean, everything is in our favor. The UN Habitat just came out with the benefits. I mean, more than designing cities, we're designing a way of life. A way of life. But in the past 75 years, we have been designing cities for the cars. We've been inviting cars, and we've been getting cars. I have worked in over 350 cities all over the world. In the last 25 years, I also created 880 cities. And people say, oh, what's 880 cities? Well, 880 is not really about walking or cycling or streets. Those are the means, not the end. The end is how can we help successful cities? And part of the successful cities where people bike. And I like to see the venues where I'm going to speak. I was here yesterday. I was in Warsaw once, and I was going to speak here, and I said, oh, my God, how can I compete with this? And then I saw the DJ Vika. Wonderful woman. She goes from city to city, from park to park, organizing dances. But let's get back to 880. So it's about healthy communities. And then people say, oh, Gil, can my children bike to school? Can my grandparents ride their bike to get eggs or milk? I said the 880 rule of common sense. Unfortunately, common sense is the least common of the senses. Step number 1, think of an 8-year-old. So think of a child that you love. Your son, your daughter, your grandchild, your brothers, your sisters. The kids in Finland that go bike, 80% of these kids bike at minus 30 degrees. Once you have the child in mind, step number 2, think of an older adult that you love, your parents, your grandparents, your brothers, your sisters. Yeah, she doesn't look 80, but I love this photo. And then step number 3, once you have the child and you have the older adult, would you send them across that intersection? Would you send them riding their bike to get eggs or milk, riding their bike to the park? If you would, enough. If you would, it's because it's not. And we got to make it better. I mean, what if everything you did in Gdańsk, everything, the bike lane, the road, the sidewalk, the crosswalk, the school, the convention center, the hotel, everything had to be great for an 8 and an 80. It's not 8, it is 8 and 80 as an indicator species. Because if it's good for the 8 and it's good for 80, it's going to be good for everybody from 0 to over 100. We need to stop building the cities as if everybody was 30-year-old and athletic and build cities for everyone. That is the concept of 880 cities, where everyone can live healthier and happier. That's why we need to ask, how do we want to live? If we want kids to bike to school, we need to do small schools so that the catchment area is small. I mean, how much autonomy, for example, the children have? All children, 6 to 16, they should be able to ride their bikes everywhere. It's incredible that in most cities, people accept as normal, soccer moms, soccer dads, that children have to depend on someone with a car just to go for an ice cream, or to go to a friend's house, or to go to the school. No, a civilized city, children 6 to 16 should be able to bike everywhere in their cities. I mean, neighborhoods is where we live. Our neighborhoods are a way of life. So we should be thinking about neighborhood cities. People are talking about 20-minute city and 15-minute city and 10-minute city. No, I talk about neighborhood cities, about proximity, about having all the basic needs within a short walk or bike ride. And we're talking about cities. We need to change. This is not technical issues. This is not financial. This has nothing to do with the left or the right. This is something we've done bad as advocates. Allow the left to think that riding bikes is left. So then when the right wing comes to power, they want to rip off the bike lanes. No, biking shouldn't be right or left. There should be agreement on cycling. That's the what. Maybe there's a difference on the how. Some might do it with unionized workers, or others might do it with the private sector. This is about doing. We need to move from talking to doing. And change can be fast, very fast. I mean, we just saw it. We had COVID. There were fewer cars. Bike lanes used to take 10, 20 years to build. Now it took 10 days to build. All over the world. So we saw in a very, very clear that it was not a technical issue and it was not a monetary issue, because we saw everywhere around the world. Small cities, big cities, rich cities, poor cities, everywhere people were building bike lanes. And we said, oh my God, this is really fantastic. I mean, there were not even sidewalks or parks. And then we took over the streets. We realized streets were public spaces. I mean, even there were no parks on places like San Francisco. So they took a golf course with 200 people playing one day. And they said, as of tomorrow, there's going to be a park with thousands and thousands of people. I mean, the impossible became possible. And we were so happy. I mean, change can happen fast. The mayor of Oakland, California, said as of tomorrow, all of the streets in the neighborhoods are slow. So if you are on an arterial and there's a traffic jam, you wait on the arterial. You cannot cut through the neighborhood. The neighborhood are slow, 10 kilometers an hour, only for the people that live there. And then children and people with mental or physical disabilities, and everybody started using them, and there was clean air and local traffic and less noise. I mean, why not do it in Gdańsk? I mean, do one neighborhood. And then the whole city. Everywhere, in all of your cities, this is doable. I mean, they did it in 24 hours. Let's open, I thought it was going to open our minds, that we were going to jump over COVID and the pandemic, and then we were going to green the streets. I mean, the streets are 25 to 30% of our cities. I mean, we got to green. We got to move from gray to green. I mean, it seems so easy. And it should be, but it's not, because some people want to have more cars, more isolation. So unfortunately, most of the cities went back to 2019. The reality is that in the past 75 years, we've been inviting cars, and then we've gotten a lot of cars. And now we're discussing whether they should be electric or Uber or whatever. No, we need to change. It's the lifestyle. It's not how we power the cars. This approach for recycling that we've been trying, bikes versus cars. We have a right. It's good. We're the good against the bad. You know, this approach has not worked. Has not worked. I mean, if you have a city with less than 10 or 15% bike share, this does not work. I mean, I know it. I live in Toronto. In Toronto, 2% of the people bike, and the premier wants to take away. He says it, I want to bring sanity back to the bike lane. No bike lanes where it slows cars. Look at what he said the other day on TV.
Let's kill businesses. Let's all go around and hop on our bicycle and go down the crowded streets that are just absolute insanity right now.
And that was a winning proposal. He was elected with a majority. He was elected also on a thing called the fight of Canada and the US. But when you got 3% of the people cycling, and you got over 50% at the greater Toronto area, it's even less, 1.5%, and over 60% in car. You cannot fight it that way, bikes versus cars. It has not worked anywhere in the world, so we gotta have a different focus. We gotta do things differently. We need to think. Let me give you a couple of ideas. What I think we should be asking and also learning from the best. What should we have? There are some things that are nice to have, others that are must have. They're nice to have, like maps and classes and signs and parking. They don't increase cycling. I mean, think of someone that doesn't bike because they are scared. Are they going to bike because you got maps or racks on the buses? No, that makes it nicer for the 2% that are already cycling, but that doesn't get more cyclists. Even the bike share systems, I'm not sure how much they increase. It's very clear that bike share increases the trips, many more trips, but not much the riders, because if you are afraid, you're not going to do it. I think there are two things that you must have. One is low speed, citywide, and two, a minimum grid. So we gotta limit the speed citywide, 30 kilometers everywhere except the big arterials. Why 30 kilometers? Because if someone gets injured, hit by a driver at 30, 5% probability of being killed. At 50, more than 85%. If you work in miles, it's the same. 30K or 20 miles is the same thing. And then it's an issue of life or death. Also, when you have the cars at 30, you can even mix cyclists and cars. If the 30 kilometers is enforced with humps, with cameras, with stops, with fines, with everything. So we really got to work on this and enforce. I mean, there are many cities that are doing it. And with North America, they tell me Oslo, but we are not Oslo. Well, Hoboken, New Jersey, right across from New York, they did it. 0 deaths in the last 4 years. They transformed citywide, 20 miles an hour, and they did protected bike lanes. Not just the painted line. Painted line, sorry, but putting a bollard every 2 meters. We gotta have some kind of physical protection. They did it. There are hundreds of cities that are safe, but we gotta have the minimum grid. A minimum grid because we need connectivity. I mean, the parks work great at transformation because a park doesn't need to work with another park. Football fields don't need to work with others. I mean, this is fantastic. The big problem with cycling is that if you don't have connectivity, it does not click. I mean, look at Seville, Spain. I was at the Velo-city in Seville. It was amazing. And Manfred was there, and Manuel from the local organizers. I mean, what Seville has done is amazing, because people said, oh, no one bikes in Seville because it's too hot. It's because we love cars. No, it was because they didn't have infrastructure. Look, they got rid of the car parks, put it bike lanes. It's not for the bike lanes, but their goal was connectivity. They had these three, no one bike. This is even worse than nothing, and this happens in many places like Toronto. When you don't have a network, it does not click. And then people say, oh, we don't have a bicycle culture. No, it's that if 30% of your ride is safe, but 70% is not, very few people bike. In 2 years, they went to 80 kilometers. And then they went to 130. And this was the transformation in Seville. So if Seville has a really, really, really good lesson, it's that we need networks. And we don't only need networks, we need them fast. Because if we don't have the network, it will not click. It will not, and then everybody's going to be upset. The cyclists, because you have not done enough. The non-cyclists, because they see you as the cyclist administration. And it's really incredible. I saw this guy, I was speaking with him, he doesn't have one leg, and he said, before Seville did this, I could only go in front of my house. 1 block this way or 1 block. Now, he says, I go all over the city. The Seville is one of the examples of the connectivity of the networks. So in the ask, let's ask for the 30-kilometer citywide, and let's ask for the minimum grid, the connectivity. And second, let's learn from others. Beautiful. We need to have physical separation. The walking, the cycling, the car. In Copenhagen, it's at different levels. We know the differences, the pedestrian, the cyclists, and so on. I mean, we can improve bikeability, but all of you, most of you really know how to do it. A simple rule of thumb for decision makers: if it's not safe for an 8 and an 80, it's nothing. Don't even call it a bike lane. It's nothing. It's just paint on the street. It's not just for the professionals. We got to think of the children. We got to think of people of all ages and all abilities. That's why we minimum network of AAA bike lanes for all ages and all abilities. And like, Melissa Brunlet put this on LinkedIn the other day, even before the kids are born. And we need to say for the children, the Dutch Cycling Federation, we need 80% of the kids at -30, they are biking to school. We need the youth. We need the adults. We need the older adults. We need the summer. We need the winter. Cycling is a 4-season activity. It's just a way of life, but we need that connectivity. I mean, we really got to move from asking for bike lanes and ask for networks. Like the mayor of Paris asked the other day for pedestrians. She didn't say she wanted to do 500 pedestrian streets. She didn't go one by one. She would have lost so many. She said, let's do a referendum, 500. Go to your city and do a network of bike lanes at once. And if you don't have the money or political will to do permanent like this one in Paris, okay, don't just paint the line. Put a bollard every 2 meters, and it's going to make a world of difference. That's people back in Amsterdam, because it's safe, it's joyful. That's why people back in Copenhagen, also because of the connectivity. It's safe, it's fast, it's connected, it's inexpensive, it's good for everyone. So that's what we should aspire to do everywhere. Thinking of daytime and nighttime. Rain. You know, in Copenhagen, it rains and rains and rains 80% of the days. And downtown, they got over 60%. Metropolitan-wide, they got over 40%. And this is the mode of mobility in Copenhagen. I mean, they want to increase. 1/3 of the older adults' bikes. They don't use shirts in the summer. Women don't need special shoes. It's good for people. Wherever you have safe, the women is a really good indicator, because cities that are safe and joyful, over 50% of the women, of the cyclists are women. And this could be wonderful anywhere. And it's not because they're blonde and blue eyes, those Vikings are so different. No. In the oil crisis in the 70s, they didn't have infrastructure. And then a lot of children were being killed. And in Amsterdam and Copenhagen, they started doing demonstrations. Everywhere. Stop killing the children. Stop the children murders. So, I mean, we really need to be grateful to all of these people. We really need to be grateful to them, to the people that went out in Amsterdam, in Copenhagen, and in many, because thanks to them, now in those cities, people of all ages and abilities can bike safely, and this is how kids get to school. I mean, Gdańsk could be as good as Copenhagen. Why not? Or any city. I mean, everywhere we got to do all we can to do the best cycling infrastructure. But doing best cycling infrastructure is not enough. Also, all ages and abilities doing cities for children. That reminds me of Tirana, Albania. When I went there 9 years ago, only the very old, very poor used to bike. Now they have a plan, amazing, children and adults and young people and everybody, and it's really fantastic, the transformation that they have done for people and making it fun and exciting. And by the way, the bicycle mayor of Tirana is going to be here at Velo-city, so make sure you talk to her. Also, I was reminded, when I think of children, of the big bad wolf. All of the children's stories had a wolf. So whether it was the Le Petit Chaperon, the wolf, and then the wolf, and everywhere. Who is today's wolves for children? What scares children the most? Yeah, the cars. The cars. You know, in the past 20 years, one of these killed 26 people. The other one killed 26 million people. So if we want to have a city for children, we must limit the speed and the size of the motor vehicles. That's a non-negotiable. I mean, we need to restrict the cars. Any city that has more than 10% bike share has restricted somehow, ending subsidies to gasoline or roads or parking, reducing the width of the lanes, because in reality that almost everything that is good for cars is bad for cycling. And also for pedestrians. And of course, not only cities for children, we gotta do cities for older adults. Think about this, in Poland has doubled the life expectancy in the last 125 years. Actually, every city in the world has doubled the life expectancy, and most of it is healthy years. I don't know why we have such a negative perception. Our body ages, but our mind does not. I mean, if we view aging as a decline, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I mean, we gotta fight ageism. Ageism is dumb. You know, don't bike, act your age. No, there is nothing that should not be allowed because of your age. I mean, aging is not a problem to solve or a disease to cure. aging is living. Living. And we're living much, much, much longer. Imagine this, the new 65. 2 out of 3 people that have ever lived to 65, 2 out of 3 are alive today. It's incredible. Older adults is 1/4 of our life. And the population over 60 are going to double. The population over 80 are going to quadruple. So what is our role? What is the role of Velo-city with older adults? Because huge need and opportunity. They could be some of the best advocates. Also, because they have time. And they do want to leave a better world for their children. A tiny minority of older people, the 1% are NIMBYs and are against everything. They are cave people. 99% are not. Okay, I'm running out of time, so I'm going to go quickly. Olders are givers, not takers. We got to change the conversation. We have added many, many years to our life. But now we need to add life to those years. How to live older, healthier, happier. And someone said, we don't stop playing because we grow old. No. I said, we don't stop walking and cycling because we grow old. We grow old because we stop walking and cycling. Let's make it really, really nice for older people. I mean, in Copenhagen and in Amsterdam and in Utrecht and in Münster, over 30% of the older people, that's how they move every day. So let's focus on the benefits. Cycling and the energizing solidarity is good for all of this. So think, should you convince your decision makers, hitting them in the heart or the brain? It's the chicken or the egg. The heart. I mean, the brain, all the statistics are very, very clear that cycling is good for all of this. So think, what will hit in the nerve to each one of your counselors, to the citizens, to the media? So hit them in the heart. Once they are convinced, then if it's health and wellness, for example, then talk about healthier lifestyles. If it's so then it's very easy to come with the numbers. It's not about the numbers, and then heart and brain are going to work together. And the benefits is different if it's the government or if it's the individual. If it's the government, tell them about health, because that's what they need to do: physical, mental, social health. Tell them it's good for economic development, because you need to be able to attract and retain good people. And good people will not go if it's not a good cycling city with green spaces and so on. So it's really, really good for him. It's also good for climate change. But if you go to the individual, sometimes individuals don't care too much about this. So tell them that is very inexpensive. Having a car in the US is more than 20% of the income. A bike and public transit is 4%. It's safe, make it convenient. They're gonna have cleaner air. So regarding the benefits, think like Deng Xiaoping that said, it doesn't matter if the cat is black or white, so long as it catches mice. It doesn't matter which is the benefit, as long as you get cycling moving forward. So how do we wanna live? I love that the European Cyclists Federation and the Cities for Better Health are doing the Healthy Cycling Challenge. Go to it, participate. 3 cities are going to get $100,000 to transform. I mean, we've known this, but we continue to do bike lanes for the 1% that are strong and fearless. Instead of this, the interest about concern, that is the 60%. I mean, we know, it's 1 minute, 60 seconds, please. We know that cycling is good. I mean, let's move from hopeless to hopeful. The only good thing that the car has is that it has a small mirror to look back and a big windshield to move forward. Let's move forward. Let's have a positive attitude. I mean, you can do it. I mean, if not you, then who? If not now, then when? I think that you got to be at the table at any decision that has to do with cities and people. I mean, if you are not at the table, you're going to be on the menu, and you do not want to be on the menu. It's not going to happen like these guys. If we don't change at all and something magical happens, nothing magical has happened in the last 25 years. Nothing magical is going to happen in the next 25. We need to change. There won't be Martians coming down to say, I'm going to transform Poland into the most bike-friendly country. Change is hard. So, because most of the people oppose change, doing more of the same becomes easy. Be the change. Show up. Send the emails. Make the phone calls. Go to the meetings. And when people are very loud, think of Don Quixote. The dogs are barking, Sancho, a sign that we're moving forward. Focus on the benefits, on the lower speeds and the minimum grid. Develop alliances. You cannot do it by yourself. Do alliances with people from public health and parks and economic development. It's not even elected officials. There are some really, really good elected officials, even if they're minority, with associations of children, of older adults, of environmentalists, of faith groups, many others. And keep in mind, it's not about riding bicycles. It's about creating cities for people. Be bold. Have a shared vision. And action, action, action. And enjoy the ride. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Gil Penalosa. That was lovely.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you. Thank you.